employee assistance plans. There's mental health workers and clinicians there too if you just wanted to go and have a little chat, right? It's been mentioned if we take care of ourselves, we're going to be just that much more capable of taking care of and teaching the young ones that we service. So if we keep our cups filled, we'll be able to pour into the students that we work with. Within our schools that we work in, we really encourage the staff to develop staff wellness committees, basically, and to take care of themselves like that and put on events or functions and leave that open to all the staff to come in. So making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, I think, is so important. The students and young systems and learners that we work for, they deserve the best of us. I truly believe that. So we really need to work on taking care of ourselves so we can bring the best of ourselves for them. Another thing just to kind of consider when we are bringing in people or starting these conversations is we really don't know. We really don't know what these young people have been through, what they're living with every single day when they come into our buildings. So if you have access to mental health professionals within your building, to invite them to be there for when you do have those conversations, for just in case when someone is triggered, right? So there's someone there, there's a safe person to continue that conversation or follow them out if need be. To me, that's a really important piece because, again, sometimes we don't know what they're going through, and just a simple question, it could trigger. I don't want to scare anyone from asking those questions, but if we're going to dive right into it, basically, is just to ensure that there's someone there to help them. Miigwech.
When I was thinking about this question, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but sometimes I hear things like trauma-informed care or like anti-racist, anti-oppressive practice and all these like big terminology and words that we're now using. And when I first started hearing those phrases, I thought it was pretty intimidating, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these trainings and learn all these new practices and ways of supporting people. And then going through these trainings, I realized sometimes we just give really big fancy names to things that are actually just quite simple, like being respectful, coming at it of a place of understanding, like just being an open and welcoming person. And so for me, like I think about what does trauma-informed practice actually look like in reality, and it really kind of just comes down to respect and respect for everyone. And it doesn't just include young people who may be coming from experiences of trauma. It's all young people and the people that we work with coming at with that understanding. I've heard of some young people talk about like for them, what that support has looked like has been them falling asleep at a class, and instead of getting kicked out of class and told that they're not paying attention and not understanding, like sometimes we can come at things with more of like a punitive approach, that their teacher pulled them aside, had learned that they were struggling falling asleep, that there was stuff going on at home, and they were given a place to sleep, like a safe place to sleep in the school. So to me, that's like a trauma-informed practice. It could also be, like I've heard from young people, like they use a cell phone sometimes, like they're listening, they're paying attention, but they just have a lot of anxiety, and they've used a cell phone just to kind of help themselves calm down and to regulate. And so it could mean like not punishing young people if you see them using a cell phone, but exploring why in certain cases, or if there's anything that you can be doing with young people to support them and feeling comfortable to participate. And then for me, I think like another good example too is for young people that may really be struggling and maybe pushing people away that are trying to help them, that you don't give up on them too. I've heard from young people like, I tried to push you away so many times, but you were still there for me and you didn't give up on me. And even when I relapsed or when I was struggling again, like I didn't feel ashamed coming back to you and talking to you about those things because you were open and you didn't have judgment or you didn't feel disappointed in me. And so it kind of comes down to just being there, being a supportive person and not giving up on young people, especially when they're struggling the most.
Consistency. Yeah, consistency is really important. I can definitely relate to consistency. I was in counseling, I guess, in school. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I had to go see someone and I got pulled out of class, and we would sit there and play hangman. And we'd play X's and O's. I don't know if you remember that game SOS. It was just on a piece of paper. We'd sit there and, you know, we would just play X's and O's and hangman. And at first, I never wanted to open up to anybody. I never wanted to share anything. And then as that relationship started happening, I felt more safe, I felt more comfortable, and then all of a sudden, I'm starting to have these reflections, and I'm starting to have more of an awareness of, what's going on around me, and, to be open to share. And that took a little bit, and then it came down to consistency, because right away, I was not ready to share. I was not ready, and I even went to, when I chose the treatment center that I went to, I was looking at like a 30-day program, and I was like, I don't know, 30 days, and I actually didn't open up to my counselors until the third week, so, and often, like by the third week, it's like, okay, we're just gearing up to end our programming, and then, and then all of that support seems to be over, so, you can speak to enough about consistency. Trauma-informed care, and I would also say culturally appropriate trauma-informed care as well, it was my fault. I brought in a program to the high school around, what was it? It was harm reduction. And it wasn't culturally appropriate to Indigenous youth. And so it was completely went over my head. I was just like, oh yeah, we'll do some harm reduction programming, but it wasn't, specific to Indigenous young people. And it was actually could have done maybe, I don't want to say more harm, but it wasn't, I don't think what they really needed, so that was something on my end that I needed to do. And so thinking about, like, from your experiences, like, I know we don't have any more questions here, but like I have your time and I have the expertise up here. So are there things that you do and you experience that you would like to share, whether it's like a support specifically for, your staff? Because it was mentioned, like, having a healthy staff is really important. If you want to, be the best that you can to be present for those young people and the students that you're supporting, like, is there anything, and I agree, it's not just the educators, but, it's the administrators as well, it's your team. What type of supports can be there so that, your staff can be in a good place and have the energy to be able to bring that support to the students. So maybe if there's any suggestion that you may have, and maybe, some of the audience can, pick up on those and maybe implement those into, their work. So maybe I'll give an opportunity to share if there's anything like that.
I'll go quickly. The first thing that comes to mind for me, and when you're talking about that harm reduction program too, like I can give one example, but for me, I can't talk more enough about the importance of working with young people themselves and how helpful that's been for me in the work that I've been doing. So we have youth as staff on our teams that we work with all the time, like lots of programs and services now have youth advisory groups that you can go to. But like the example that you gave about the harm reduction program, like I know sometimes we've brought these programs that we thought were amazing and we were all excited about and we were going to be going into community, and then we bring them to young people on our team and they're like, what are you doing? This isn't going to work. We need to change it in all these different ways. We need to have young people facilitating this program. And so it's really changed the way that I work now and everything that I'll be doing moving ahead. And I think like paying young people as staff and having them lead this work is so important.
I'll just share something I was doing before I came up here. I firmly believe in our communal knowledge and leaning upon that to help not only ourselves but our young people, and bringing in culturally adapted interventions and programming to the students is so important. One example of community coming together and doing that, right before coming out, I just came from a coming out ceremony. We had a few youth, some young boys. They went out for their fast, one of them their first and the other one their third. But one of the boys that were there, I'll just share this. He had been struggling for a little while with managing his emotions. Wasn't really sure what he was trying to cope with. He wasn't really sure where it was coming from. So when he went out and fasted, he came back with some answers. And I love going to those coming out ceremonies when they come and share their stories, their visions, their dreams. A lot of times, those stories aren't just for them too, right? So I encourage you to go to that too if your communities do that. Sometimes those stories and dreams, they're for someone else that's there and maybe yourself. So I really like going there for that too. But this young person, while he was out there, he shared that a grandmother came to him in his sleep while he was dreaming, and she came and gave him some answers. So he finally found out why why he was emotional, why at times he cried and did not know why. And she came and told him, it's because you're a warrior. She's like, the people cry. The warriors cry for their people. And he had to sit and reflect on that for a while. He comes from, he comes from a home where there may be some issues, but he feels that he's very safe and loved at home. When he thought about it, he was thinking about his friends, his families, his classmates, and it hit him. That's why he was so emotional. He was emotional and crying for his family, for his community members. So he's on a path to continue that work that he's started. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because before that, he was trying to figure out, what's wrong with me? Where's this coming from? Why can't I cope with my emotions? And after he came and shared that, like, he was so calm. He just looked so grounded. He spoke so eloquently for such a young guy. And when he shared his stories and his visions, it was just amazing to me. But I just wanted to share that little story, because I know we all come from different communities, but we all have communal knowledge where we come from, right? And ensuring that our young people can become resilient and strong and know who they are, I think is fundamentally one of the most important things we can do for them. If they're secure in their own identity and themselves, they're going to be able to take on anything life throws at them when they get there. I know in the schools there's an emphasis on the academics. I'll tell you guys, if they're firm in their culture, their beliefs, and who they are, they'll pick up that stuff so fast when they're ready. As long as they're grounded in their culture and their identity, they'll be able to overcome any obstacle that's thrown their way in life. So I would really like to leave everyone with that, just to put a focus on that, or at least reflect on it and think on that. All right, miigwech.
For the mental health and addictions team of Six Nations, we do have access to the traditional medicine program, and our traditional medicine practitioner, which is Eunice Henry, she has a lot of experience working with our people in our community. And actually just last week, I went on a medicine pick with her and other staff. So just simple things like going out onto the land and picking medicine, it does so much for my mental wellness. So it doesn't have to be, a big workshop or something like that. It can be something as simple, just connecting back to the land, connecting back to the people.
I don't think I have much more to add, other than I think a theme of all of our answers has been connection, and connection with each other, connection with the students and the young people that we work with, and how that can be so powerful for our own wellness. And so I think, and sometimes we forget that ourselves as either educators or support people, that we need to take care of ourselves and have those connections and those outlets as well for ourselves. So I think just as a reminder for all of us, that we can only be as good as we can be if we're taking care of ourselves as well as the students. So finding time to engage in those things that are meaningful and important to you, to build up your own resilience, and a lot of that comes through connection. So finding connection with your coworkers is really important in the workplace, just to build up that resilience.
Self-care and community care as well, eh? I first heard community care, I was like, whoa, what's that? I think that's like also has been talked about, and in some way we talked about, the importance of showing up, Sometimes it's not just, when we're working, but, at a community event is being present at community events too, like you're at a community event and, it means a lot to the young people, and who do they see is, some of the role models or the people that they interact with and engage with in education. I think they will, feel more like that's the community care piece, I think, so it's really important. So all of you had really great answers, and you do really amazing work, and really happy to be able to listen. And so let's give a round of applause, everybody. Let's give a round of applause to all of our panelists. You're doing great work. Nataj Chagem, doing good work. So I guess now we have a little bit of time here. We got about 15 minutes. We want to open it up for Q&A out there for any questions and answers that we may have out on the floor. We'll have a runner. Do you want me to run? I see one over there, and I see another one over there. Uh-huh.
Ani and Kate Andishnikas, Shishi Guaning Dubinjaba. I'm just wondering, I love everything I heard on how you support youth. And I'm just wondering, you said a lot about role modeling and language. Just wondering how many of you have the language or learning the language or planning to learn the language? As I see that would be a good role model for the youth too.
I'm in the very early stages of learning my Mohawk language. It's actually, when I was in school, we learned Cayuga, and Cayuga was kind of easier than Mohawk, so I'm a very beginner, so yeah.
I think that's a great question. So myself, I'm not very strong in the language, and I'm very open with that with the students. So I try my best to learn aside, like right beside them, and in doing so, I think it's a strong tool too, because a lot of our young learners, even myself, a little bit shy sometimes, or you get laughed at when you mispronounce something. So to be able to hold that safe space for them and model that, sometimes it's okay not to know, but try. And try it out. So that's where I come from with that. Thank you.
Yeah, so similar to everyone else, I'm in the process of learning my language, early learning. The thing that I would say too is, like, as much as we can all be advocating for spaces where everyone can be learning or practicing their language, like not only for young people, but as adults ourselves too, and spaces and programs and funding for language, it's so important because like even within our own workplaces, having language classes, like you see that being done for other languages, but I don't see it being done as often for our languages too. And so if we want to be modeling that for our young people, we need to be doing that ourselves, but we need to have spaces ourselves where we're able to learn too.
Oh, Ani. Angie King Dijnakas, Chimnasingoded and Bandagos, Meanwhile, Midlanodend and Kinomage at Georgian College. My name's Angeline King, and I'm from Christian Island, and I teach over at Georgian College. So one of the courses I do teach there, besides language, is it's Indigenous heritage, cultures, and traditions. And in that course, I do a lot of self-reflections. Students do their reflections, they're learning medicine wheels, whatever. They follow 7 grandfather teachings. So one of the things is that tell me what you've done lately to be courageous, and they write it down in their reflections. I'm the only one that reads those, so there's a lot of trauma-based reading that they put down, and I think that's one of the ways that you can teach trauma-informed in the schools, and it works well, I think, with the students. I've noticed that they've settled down. They're not carrying as much around with them. And at the beginning of the course, when I start, I tell them about my trauma and being in the 60 scoop and what I went through, and being open, and them respecting me for what I went through, and coming back to learn the language at such a late age at 52, and being a fluent speaker now at George. And I think it comes down to respecting who our elders are, and whether now I'm auntie to all of them. Miigwech.
I'll just say I think that's such a great example too. I think that's so amazing what you're able to do, and I think sometimes like we almost come at it from like a helper and then student population too, and as much as we can be doing to kind of break down those barriers, and we all have relationships with the young people that we work with and our students, and try and break down those barriers as much as we can, and to really just open ourselves up to having those relationships and being vulnerable ourselves. Miigwech.
Ani. Charlene Akwinzi, Indigenous, Cape Croker and Donjaba, Walpole Island, Indida. I think one thing that we need to educate our students on is to recognize our Indigenous brilliance that goes on here, and that's like all the people that have made it to like our movie stars that we have, but also our educational speakers. Also, and just our ancestors, and how without education, they were lawyers and doctors and astrologists, and that to recognize that our Indigenous people are, you know, very smart people and were before education. So just to remind our students that, you know, they can reach their dreams and success, and to remind them that there is those people out there that have made it in those places too. So, miigwech.
Bonjour, Mishkopanesin Indigenous Cause. Raven Linklater, Indigenous Cause. Animki Wakwadong and Donji, Oshkiwen Jack, Nokiwin. So I am Raven Linklater. I live here in Thunder Bay, and I work for Oshki. A couple of things that I wanted, so thank you for talking about our brilliance. I also wanted to talk about our resilience, and I often like reframing trauma-informed into healing-informed, because I feel like we have an abundance of strength, resilience, and positivity to help us move beyond those moments in space and time of trauma. And we are more than just a moment in space and time that exists in trauma. So what I wanted to ask is, how can we meaningfully implement Indigenous wellness frameworks like the medicine wheel, the 7 sacred teachings, some of these philosophical things into our institutional systems? How do we meaningfully engage with community to be able to implement these where they actually within our systems?
It's a really good question. Do we have any of our panelists who would like to take a shot answering the question?
Just speak to a few things that we do within our school. So we do have a cultural team within our school who are available to the students as needed, or we also work closely, the mental health team would work closely with them to collaborate and to ensure that the students' needs are being met in the best way for them. We offer every week or every other week, we offer Cultural Fridays where the students are, there isn't class for a portion of the afternoon, and they go and they're able to engage in a variety of different activities that our elders and our cultural leads put on for our students. And the staff of the school are also encouraged to participate as well. So it's another moment where the staff can engage with the students in a different way, and it's been really successful. And offering many different events throughout the school year, from feast days to powwow demonstrations to different aspects of the culture that we try to educate our students, and along with land-based opportunities as well.
I'm just going to speak to a simple thing that has a huge impact. So in our schools, there's 5 schools on 6 nations, and in each school, we start our day with the Thanksgiving address, and we end our day with the Thanksgiving address. And all of the well-being staff under health services, including the mental health and addictions team. We also have the opportunity to start our day with a Thanksgiving address and end each workday with a Thanksgiving address. So it is something simple, but it has such a huge impact on well-being.
Something that that we do to try and influence that, I guess you can say, is we're in the process of planting seeds, I guess you can say. So we bring in different workers, mental health clinicians, psychotherapists that come from a background where they have a lot of teachings to share, and that's their focus when they come into our buildings, is to teach and to counsel from that lens and that perspective. But they also do PD for us with the staff. So in that way, that's how we're starting to plant those seeds and implement on our system. But in our community, they're actually pretty good at that already. That's usually the framework where it starts at, is looking at, you know, the different parts of us and the medicine wheel, and kind of looking at it from that point of view. So in that way, we're pretty fortunate. But that's our small way of planting seeds within the system. There is just having people come in with that knowledge and those different teachings, whether it be the 8-point STAR teaching or different medicine wheel teachings, and use that as their teaching tool. And then, you know, there's always staff that have questions. They want to know more, so they follow up with them, and then they're bringing it into the classroom. There's administrators kind of circling in and out, popping their head in, and they see what's going on, and they're like, oh, can I steal that resource? So that's our way of kind of just planting those seeds. Miigwech.
Do we have time? Yeah, I'll go quick. So just something I'll mention really quickly. In my workplace, we are really lucky to have a traditional healer and elders on staff and paid positions, which I think is a really amazing resource, and I'm really lucky to be able to work with those staff every single day. So that's really helpful for the people that we work with and for young people and clients, but it's also really helpful for our staff too. So every Wednesday, kind of like what others were talking about, we have a session that's focused on a different topic that allows us to think about how to be integrating different teachings and knowledge into the work that we're doing. We also have a ceremony grounds on our hospital grounds, and so we'll do sweats, we'll do ceremony. We just built a new sweat lodge in September, and so we'll do that as staff, but we'll also participate and kind of offer those opportunities for the people that we work with too. And so I think it's helpful to invest into people that you're working with, but you also have to invest that into yourself too, and invest in your own healing as being a helper in doing this work. Miigwech.
Yeah, Bejic. Bejic, last one, last comment from the floor.
Oh, bonjour, and the way Margaretug. Wababa Ganojin Indigenous cause, Makwan Dodem, Dene Anishinaabe and Dao. I say miigwech to the panel and your wonderful words. And I just want to emphasize that words have power. When we tell our kids you're going to go see the mental health worker, what are they going to start thinking? I must be mental. I must need help. I just checked the Ojibwe dictionary, and there's no word for trauma in the language. What does that mean for us? I just want to emphasize the word Bamadzuin. Mino Bamadzuin. When we talk about life and tell our kids about life, and I say miigwech to the young lady who remembered the wisdom of our ancestors, how brilliant they were, how brilliant they are, and how much information and knowledge they still want to share with us. When our kids start to think and learn, as you've been talking about, well, we'll go on the land, okay, that's what our ancestors want for them. When we tell them about our ceremonies, that's what our ancestors want for them. When they do the work that our ancestors have left for us to do, they feel strong. And we have to celebrate the kids and celebrate how we are helping our kids celebrate Bamadzuin, life. And just, again, words have power, and I just want to leave you with that idea that how we bring our kids to this place called school before they burn them all down, and take them out on the land where they're supposed to be, help them with life, help them understand they have a gift. Each one of our students, each one of us, we all have gifts. My gift is to yap a lot, so be patient. But every child needs to know, hey, Creator made you so special. And how often do they hear that? So we have to have some safe places. We have to make sure they have a place to sleep. And some kids go to school. I've taught school, and the kids come to school because it's the only safe place in the community. We have to remember that part too. But that's how we engage our kids in so many different ways. So words have power. English language, how come we're using English? We're not using our own words. Like I say, there's no word for trauma in Anishinaabe, so how come we're saying trauma? It's life, and how can we help you? How can I be a Shkabewis and help you with your life? Miigwech.
Uh-huh. Gabe Bejic, the show goes on. We got one more, yeah.
Niche.
Two? Niche. We got two. Okay, I'm gonna cap it at the two.
Hi, Miigwech. I can see each one of you, the four of you sitting there, and like being champions and ambassadors for Kids Health Phone. Kikendanawana. Have you heard? I'm even speaking to the audience here. There's an organization that has been around for 30 years, and it's Kids Health Phone. So myself and my friend Jojo here, my sister, we have been ambassadors for a couple of years now, right? So they're looking for First Nation voices, First Nation people, and especially the remote areas now. That's their main focus. So there's also a website that students can access. When I was teaching them, I informed my students about these websites. There's like, if you find, like, there's a whole session of topics, panic, anger, housing and isolation, just abuse, bullying, they'll name just a few. And so every year they're looking for people to be volunteer and to be champions, ambassadors for their program at the city where they live. And at the city where you live, you reach out to the kids. And what else is that? Yeah, they send everything for free, posters, whatever it is you need to use when you're working with the students or in a classroom, or, if, we have been aiming to set up a booth at conferences, but one thing we find is we're a little late in requesting, the brochures and information that we should be giving out. So, and there's a 24-hour, anonymous counseling that they offer, right? Yeah. So, and I find some of my students, they're not ready to speak to someone. I can see that in far, reach, my home community is Abmatung, and there's really, students are not, they have to find somebody to trust, right? And I even have my own, nieces and nephews that have opened up their, their experience and lived experience stories to counselors. And those counselors don't come back. They have to retell their, their trauma or their emergency in life to someone new. So so this online, if they would call, they would get a crisis responder, or even use texting, for anything that they want. I'll see if Jojo can add more to that.
Miigwech. So there's two parts. There's the crisis response, and the person, and they call youth up to 30, can get an immediate response, as well as resources and items that can be sent to the communities and or accessed online. So there's two parts to this. But if you need more information, happy to provide, or if you have something coming up and you'd like Kids Helpline to be present and available with resources for the members, that can also be arranged.
Just Google kidshelpphone.ca, and you'll get more information from Miigwech. And reach out to it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Stark. Miigwech to all of you for sharing your knowledge and moving this agenda of resilience and brilliance and healing informed versus trauma informed. But again, there's got to be a balance there. One of the ladies mentioned the medicine wheel, and this whole idea of sharing circle, I think, is very crucial because kids as early as grade 3 know what's going on. They know our issues of the realities of homelessness, drugs, because maybe it is happening at home. And probably a majority of the time, it probably is because of the crisis that we're experiencing in our communities. And so anyway, I just wanted to share this Mino Bamatsawin, where these grade 3 students, so what does Mino Bamatsawin mean to you? Living a good life. And what's living a good life? Taking care of the water, taking care of the animals, and only hunting what we need, and addressing homelessness, addressing the drugs in our communities. It's so powerful to hear a young person say that, and I think that's where we're going to break these vicious cycles, because they're going to become youth one day, and if we're not, again, when it comes to addressing what these realities are, our community issues, then it's going to start with them. So just wondering, again, when it comes to youth programming, how we are creating our children as early as grade 3 to be resilient and break those vicious cycles for us. Miigwech.
Miigwech. I think I'll just add really quickly, I think that's a great point, and sometimes I'll hear from teachers or mental health workers, I'm scared of having these conversations, or I'm nervous of having these conversations. How young is too young? And if you talk about these things, will it actually encourage substance use? I think is kind of the most common conversation that I have, and I just want to dispel that too. And just talking about it doesn't mean that people are going to experience those things. And I've heard the same thing, going into some communities with young people as young as 8 struggling with addictions. And so you need to have these conversations as early as you can to be supporting people, because you don't know when they're going to be experiencing these challenges. And like you were just saying too, young people are aware, they see what's going on, and they need us to acknowledge that.
Now, I just want to say thank you. You're beautiful people, strong, and I'm really proud of you. I'm a survivor, you name it, I've survived it. And I think in our healing journey, we begin to connect our mind with our heart more. That was severed by the trauma. And then it's blocked again by the substance use. So if we can free up that line of communication from our mind to our heart to go back and forth, so that we make the right decisions and keep that healing going. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Next.
Next, kada. Miigwech. Really great questions from the floor. Really great content from the panelists. Let's give them a good round of applause. Yabagading. Really important. Great work, everybody. And IUs will be around. And if people have any questions, it's okay if people come in and approach you and talk. So they'll be around, and IUs are more than welcome to engage a conversation with them during break or afterwards to continue those important conversations. As well as I wanted to say, OFNYPC, the Youth Council for the Chiefs of Ontario, when I was a member of the OFNYPC, we had different resources available for young people. Photo Voice was one. There was Life Promotion, which I think was mentioned in some way, shape, or form. So, reach out to some of those youth advocates that you have, and often they might have some resources that they can point you in the right direction. Also some lived experiences as well. So I just wanted to make mention to that. And yeah, you guys are good. One more time, everybody. Let's put it together.
And just quickly, a small token of appreciation on behalf of Chiefs of Ontario. You never know what's going to come from a panel, but that's one of the most powerful panels I've ever listened to. Thank you so much. Thanks. Awesome. Thank you. So we'll probably need like 2 or 3 minutes just to get this thing out.
Kiabe? Aha. Yeah, miigwech kinage go ga kiddo yin, ga kiddo yek. Thanks for everything the users are saying. It's a lot of learning that I'm doing on my end as well. I through some of the youth programming that I help to run, throughout my community, often we're working with youth in the schools, we're working with youth in the community. So everything that's being talked about here is super and very important. It's very relevant. I really appreciate all the very important feedback and some of the dialogue as well. I think that's how we build a community of care. That's how we can have those healthy relationships with each other, and building those good networks of people so that we can lean on each other if the time ever arose, where we can reach out to each other and say, hey, what was that great program, these best practices that you had in your community? We want to know more about some of that great work and the importance of peers in all this work as well. I remember when I was young, my first youth gathering I went to, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of like really amazing young people, Indigenous young people out there. And I just felt like seen. I felt like, hey, I belonged there. I wasn't proud growing up. So when I was able to be in a large group like this, and they were all young people, and we were all talking about the issues that was important to us, it was powerful, So if there's an opportunity to send any of the youth that you work with, the students, to whether it's a student gathering, a youth gathering, like go for it. Like do it. I highly encourage it because they're so impactful and often very lasting experiences. So I guess next up we have a provincial student data dashboard. So that's going to be from Patrick Lowen and Carly Palmer. So I'm going to invite both Patrick and Carly up, if you can come on up. Let's give them a warm welcome. Welcome them up to the stage. And they're going to share a little bit about the work that the First Nations Lifelong Learning Table is doing.
Is that a line mic? The world is not built for me, so trying to figure this out. Okay. All right. Hello. Okay, so we're going to speak really fast because we just lost 10 minutes there, but I'd like to say awesome session, and thank you so much to the panel, because I know that work is super important, but it's not easy work. So again, thank you for what you guys are doing in the terms of mental health. So we're going to jump into this. My name is Patrick Lowen. I'm Associate Director of Education at Chiefs of Ontario, and with me I have the brains, which is...
Hi, I'm Carly Palmer. I'm an Education Policy Analyst here with the Chiefs of Ontario.
Okay, so we are going to talk about some data, and it will be provincial data. So this First Nation students that attend provincial school boards across Ontario. So we're not talking about the data that exists in community, just to clarify that and set the setting for that. To situate this, this work comes from the First Nation Lifelong Learning Table, and we do have some First Nation Lifelong Learning coordinators in the room, which is awesome to see. This table is a bilateral table with the Ministry of Education. It's existed since 2015, but it kind of fell flat on its tummy when our dear friend Doug Ford took office here in Ontario. So we've gone through a lot of changes, and this is sort of how it's structured right now. So we do have the bilateral agreement with the Ministry of Education, and then we have 2 circles that lead that work. So there's the planning circle and the collaboration circle. The planning circle has representation from all First Nations in Ontario, the Chief and Technical Committee on Language and Learning, knowledge keepers, observants, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs office is there too, as observers. And that table is supposed to meet bi-monthly, but it kind of, does it best, so we meet every 2-3 months, so to speak. And also at that planning circle, we have all the deputy ministers of education. So all the ministry, there's 11 divisions, so they come to that table. And we have very important discussions in terms of how First Nations students are doing and not doing well in the provincial school system. Alongside that, we have the collaboration circle. So that's the 4 PTOs plus the independent First Nations that have their own agreement with the Ministry of Education plus Chiefs of Ontario. So they're kind of doing the groundwork. So we meet monthly, and then they work with their communities in their area. We work more at the Chiefs of Ontario on a systemic level, but together we're all pulling in the same direction. So that kind of sets the table for the work we're going to talk about here today. I'll give it to you.
Okay. All right, so the vision of the First Nation Lifelong Learning Table is increased success and well-being of First Nation learners in both the provincially and federally funded education system through a balanced, respectful, and collaborative relationship whereby collaborative work is planned, designed, implemented, and regularly evaluated.
Yeah, so those are big, lofty words, of course. Our mandates are from the Chiefs of Assembly, so that's what we work for. If we don't have a mandate to work on something, then we either have to decline that or we go to the Chiefs for a new mandate. I think it's you again. Yeah, I'll give it.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the work of the FNLLT is guided by 6 priorities: curriculum, relationships, community and student well-being, languages and culture, information access and accountability, and policy development. These priorities were handed to us by the Chiefs in Assembly. So our data dashboards and what we're talking about today, that falls under priority number 5, information access and accountability, which is where our data sharing agreement with the Ministry of Education also falls. And this data informs our dashboards that we're going to talk about today.
Good. So all the data that we get from the ministry, we do a lot of work with. And if you work in a school, you know how important data is and how that can set sort of a baseline and chart the path forward for the work you want to do in whatever that's literacy or mental health or whatever. So we take the data that we get, we do comparative or gap analysis on that. So there's a lot of detective work there to spend some time in on how for comparative analysis, for example, we compare how First Nation students are doing compared to other students, right, in the provincial system, and also how First Nation students are doing compared to Métis and Inuit students, etc., genders and all these things, right? And out of that usually comes a lot of gap analysis, and then we bring that often to the CTCLL for some information and some advice and path forwards from them with some evidence-based recommendations. And that usually leads to the advocacy work that we do here at Chiefs of Ontario. But more so, it also leads us to have that accountability tool when we do work with the Ministry of Education, because it is the data that they collect that we are looking at here today. So when we come to them, for example, I'm going to show you some graduation rates here in a bit, we can really hold their feet to the fire and say, you know, this gap still exists. It's been existing for a very long time. You know, what are we doing about it, right? This is not good enough, etc., right? So really pushing for that change. So here's some sample data, and this is usually, so the reason why we're showing this too is usually this is how we present data, and you know, we have our graphs and pie charts and stuff like that, and it's good, maybe not so interactive, and there's not a lot of analysis that you can do from it, so there, we're going to show you the dashboard in a bit that we hope that you guys are going to get excited about, and it's going to be useful for your work. But here we can see the secondary school 4-year graduation rates. So from 2016, it's got to start there, to 2021. And you have all students is sort of the dark gray line above there. So if we go to 2021, so in Ontario and the public school system, the 4-year graduation rate was 84%. So when we look at the orange line, which is First Nation students, and First Nation students that are self-identified. So it does not capture everybody, right? It's only for the students and families that decide that they want to self-identify. But you can see the 4-year graduation rate was 51%, you know? So 33% gap, unacceptable. So these are some of the hard conversations that we have with the ministry, you know, what are we going to do to correct this? What are the resources you have? You know, they talk a lot about Indigenous funding. Okay, that's great, but what's the funding specifically for First Nation students? Because this looks different if you break down the graduation rates for Métis and Inuit students, right? So it has to be targeted strategies and funding, right? So those are the, you know, some of the conversations and grounded in data that we have with them, where they can't sort of pivot and argue against their own data, right? Okay, so this is 5-year graduation. So the ministry like to that's their measurement, 5-year graduation rate, not 4-year. So as you can see, First Nation students are doing a little bit better there, which is good news, but still not close to what other students in the province are doing. So if we look at the 5-year graduation rate for high school students, for all students, it's 89%, and for First Nation students, again, self-identified, is 60%. So again, huge gap, right? Okay, and I'm just going to put a little plug in. We do have 2 very good, important reports on this. You can go to our website. Report 1 is student outcomes in provincial funded schools. So, and then the second report, suspension and equitable access to positive disciplinary climate. So you can take a look at that. There's a lot of good data there for you to have a look at and work with. So, going to our interactive data. So, like I said, when we thought about data and how would we present it and use it and all that stuff, right? It becomes quite evident that we want it to be interactive. We want it to be a tool where PTOs, First Nation communities can really dig into it to the level where, okay, I just talked about Ontario-wide data. You know, that's good, but maybe you're more interested in your regional data, in your PTO, for example. Maybe you're more interested in the data here in Thunder Bay, for example. And to that, maybe you're more interested in comparing the different high schools in Thunder Bay. So this data that we have here, you could do that. You can look at individual high schools and how are those First Nation students doing at school A, school B, C, right? And see, if there's something that stands out there. Maybe it comes to parental choice where they want their child to go or whatever. Like, there's lots of things you can do that. And then, of course, you can go to that school or that school board and ask some questions and advocate and all that stuff, right? So on your far right there, that's the data dashboard that we're going to look at in a bit here. I will warn you, we just got the link this morning from our IT person. So as you're looking at this, I'm looking at it. And the numbers don't line up. I looked at it already, and he told us that as well. So take this as an overview of the tool that will be perfect in a bit, but don't stare at the numbers blindly and like, oh, what's the graduation rate there, or why is there so many students? They're not correct. So through our data sharing agreement with the ministry, the data that we get is enrollment numbers, attendance, so EDI, so early development indicators for kindergarten students, EQI assessment, so grade 3, 6, 9, and the literacy test in grade 10, graduation rates, elementary and secondary suspension rates, K to 12 grade distribution, so we can look at the marks of students and compare that stuff, right? Early leaver rates, so when students leave, say, high school early, and dropout rates, essentially, you know. So you can also ask, okay, where are students leaving? You know, is there a trend in a certain area, region, PTO, city, whatever? We can look at that. High school course enrollment, so where do First Nations students, which courses are they taking? So academic levels, is it university level students? Is it courses? Is it applied, open, etc., right? Credit accumulation, okay, so are First Nation students, you know, in grade 9, are they getting all 8 credits? You know, and we know what the research says on that, right? Online course enrollment, so important to know, especially after COVID, like, are there students now that are, you know, kind of trending towards taking online courses instead of being in person, hybrid, and how are they doing? Is it effective? Does there need to be more support for those students? Students with IEPs, students identified, and then finally native language enrollment. So those, and it's not really that we request those per se, it's what's collected by the province, right? So I think there's an opportunity for us and you to also say, well, that's great, but how about this indicator? We just talked about earlier here on the panel, like extracurricular activities, you know, who participates in that, right? Those are very important things for us to know too, because we know there's barriers there, especially for students that are perhaps bused into high school. Maybe the bus leaves, so I can't even stay after school to participate, right? That's an obstacle, right? So we're open to hear from everybody in terms of that. But can I click on this link? I think I need technical assistance. Why don't I have internet? Oh, it looks like the internet is kicking me out. So, can I get to the... Oh, no, how do I get this on the screen? Okay, thank you. If you're a teacher, you know how valuable it is to have IT people come into your rescue. Okay, so I'm gonna have to call on IT again here. Okay, what? I apologize, this is technology for us. Okay, so here. So this is the data dashboard that's interactive. So right now, it's obviously, we just got it this morning, but the plan is for us to share it with PTOs, the First Nation Lifelong Learning Table, the Independent First Nations, and then possibly have it shared through our website. but we need to make sure that OCAP principles are followed and stuff like that. So we're not quite ready, right there yet. But as you can see on your left here where my mouse is, we have enrollment, attendance, graduation rates, grade distribution, suspension rates. So if we click on that in real life time, it's going to take you to those numbers. So I'm going to just go on enrollment here, and we'll test the hotels. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi, not bad. As you can see, there's a map here, right? And that map indicates the school board districts. So if we hover about one of those, you are going to, okay, so we have the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board there. So we get a bunch of numbers. I know it's really small, but it basically is talking about First Nation students self-identify, ECA students, which is First Nation students on an education service agreements, tuition agreements, whatever you want to call them, right? And all students. So we get all those indicators there, right? We have some key performance indicators on the side here. Those numbers are not true, so apologize for that, but they will be very soon when we release this, right? We have the academic years here. We have the board. So here's where you can go into a specific board. Lakehead District School Board, for example. Dive into a school and really dig into, okay, how is the enrollment in that school? How is the attendance in that school, right? So First Nation students, how are they attending? And then you get to compare attendance rates with all the other students in that school, right? And then you can switch over to the other school in Thunder Bay and look at them, right? So really cool stuff that you can do with this. We can go into gender too. So we have the ministry collects male and female and non-identified, so we can look at that, right? And I'm sure that as they are building out their collection system, they will, collect more detailed information in terms of gender. Oops. And then there's lots of graphs here, right? So kind of summary where you can scroll down. So you get a snapshot of school boards, sort of a ranking here on the right. And I can scroll down and hopefully those are schools, sorry. So hopefully your First Nation has one of those higher ranking school boards, right? Graduation rates, the same thing, attendance, etc. And then we will build this out to include EQAO scores and IEPs and all that stuff, right? Whatever is collected. So again, super excited about the possibility of this and the possibility for you to have data more available to you in your community and for your leadership and parents and all that stuff, right? Because again, it gives us a snapshot of how First Nation students are doing, and also that accountability tool, right? I know that a lot of your communities probably have education service agreements with the school board. This is a great tool for you to advocate for enhancements or things that are not in those service agreements, right? Okay, so that's 2:45. I know we're supposed to break for wellness break here, but if there's any questions or comment quickly, feel free to ask. Good, I'm excited too. I'll be around for the next 3 days, so come up and ask, and I can certainly sit down with you, or Carly can sit down with you, and we can really look at the tool more closely. And it's going to be updated as we go. Maybe tomorrow it's actually the accurate numbers. So thank you so much for listening. Oh, you have the mic. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow. That was pretty neat, hey? Yeah. Technology, eh? Yeah, that's really good. Hats off. One more round of applause to the staff here. putting it all together. These great resources and tools will be super, super helpful, for us as we kind of do our planning and a lot of the advocacy that will be taking place as well. So before we break, everybody, because we want to have a break, I respect everybody's wellness breaks as well, bio breaks. I like breaks, and I want to respect everybody's time. We will be coming back. Right after our break, we're heading straight to our workshops, but we're asking everybody to please come back for the end of the day. There are 2 door prizes that we're going to be giving out. You got to be here. Hey, no walking off. And if you haven't registered, that's how we're going to do the draw. They're going to get all the names of the registrations, and then they're going to be getting those. So make sure your name is registered. So, and then we're going to have knowledge and knowledge keeper and youth reflections at the end of the day. So happening in the fireside room. This is important because not all rooms are located in the same area. The fireside room is actually located by the elevators in the lobby. In the fireside room, there'll be Weequem Kong Mino Bamadzuin program, blending Western and traditional approaches to mental health, and that'll be by Cody Wasanengeso and Brian Petawanaquit. So again, that'll be in the fireside room, right beside the elevators. In the Odin room, and it'll be right down the hallway to the right, there will be a PSE costing model for student and administration supports by Angel Merico of the Chiefs of Ontario. In the Icelandic room, we'll have the Ministry of Education revised course codes and pathways by Patrick Lowen. Anishinaabe preservation, reclamation, and revitalization will take place in the Viking room, and that'll be by Barbara Nolan and Ali Darnay. In the ballroom, Mumpi, in this Anchkiniganing, in this room here, there will be the First Nations Education Council, a Quebec Regional Education Agreement, and that'll be presented by Dennis Gros-Louis. So we're going to have a break. Say 3:05 is when you can make your way over. We're going to give everybody the whole 15 minutes. So at 3:05, we're going to start off those breakout sessions. So grab some snacks, and there's a bunch of juices over in the corner. Make sure you grab them, take them back to your room with you. They're free. Might as well throw some in your purses and your bags. And little totes that Chiefs of Ontario gave you, stock them up. I hope everybody enjoys your break and enjoys the rest of your session. And we will see you at the end of the day. Miigwech. Bonjour. Bonjour. Aha. I think that's it for the day. Hope everybody enjoyed their sessions. I know I was like being nosy, poking my head in one session, poking my head into another. A lot of the head nods going on. You know, that's when you know it's a good one. Head nods. So we're raffling off a sweater someone lost. So it's from Gikino Ahmad Dawin Education. Gikino Ahmad Dawin Education. You know anybody who's missing a black sweater? We got a lost and found there. Real nice. So, but if you know anybody, you've seen somebody with that sweater there, you can. Bingo! Okay. All right. Well, it was a really great day. Day one, Education and Language Forum here. We found the winner. No winner. Okay, no winner. Okay. But yeah, I started off with Reconciliation, a presentation from Dr. Tracy Lindberg. You know, came all this way to share those good words, and you know, I think there's a few good takeaways there. But you know, one of them was like doing a community, like an asset mapping, community cultural asset mapping, something to think about, and the way that she was able to loop in the rites of passages and the different stages of life and how we approach education. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. We had Chiefs of Ontario staff give some feedback based off of the findings that they had off of a survey report that they have done. And it was mentioned that that report will be fully released and available and will be distributed within the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. We had a real amazing panel, student wellness panel discussion. I thought that was really good. Really good presenters. I believe one or two of them presented earlier on as well. So it was really good. And for those who were in the different concurrent breakout sessions, I know it's like, I want to go to this one and I want to go to that one, right? They all looked really good. Those presentations are going to be made available on the website, Mage, on this QR code. So scan the code, you follow it, and then you should be able to provide the presentations and they'll be uploaded. So if you feel like you're missing out, a little bit of FOMO, don't worry. You know, you can have access to those other presentations and get all that good information and bring it back to your community and back to your work. But other than that, I think it was a really great day. So let's have a good round of applause, everybody, for all of our presenters, all of our crew staff as well, all the technical support as well. You know, cooks. You know, Chimigwetch. It was a good day. Really excited to be here. So day one, education. Tomorrow is going to be education and language. Day 3 is going to be language specific, language focused. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to start off at 8 a.m. for breakfast provided, and then we're kick it off with an opening at 9 a.m. and then we're going to have our first presentation at 9:30. Where we're going to have systemic gaps report, opportunities in First Nations schools. So that's going to be at 9:30. So don't forget the breakfast. But before we close it up, we're going to have a drum. But before we do that, we're going to invite up our elder and our youth to come on up to provide some overall reflections of day one. So at this time, I'm going to invite up our elder knowledge keeper, Don Jones, as well as Thea Quachigan. If they can come on up. Let's give them a good warm welcome, good round of applause. It's great to see elders and youth, and it's important to make space for that, to provide their feedback after this day. So I don't know who wants to go first. Manda?
Oh, Anishna. Gagis Tagozama. Achina. Isago, Jikandan. Away. Ikagi gitueg. Away gitiway ninan. Ginon dogs go pane. Kagi gitueg, yeah. Yeah, Nishinapache. Gibisin dog woman, yeah, Kituat, Anishinabeg. Object going away, Kituay ninan. Yes, go chicken the mapache, Manito, no dungy, yeah. Anish, yeah, me, a basic, meaning go is when we got me going, job just going, chicken no ding. We saw gay, away. I didn't go, just to get away. When is to go away, when way kino, Bim Pamamina, Nak Shake Pamamina, Wabang, you wap in the min. Vegas this way, ani be mo se magak this way. We guys just again gis kasai thing ma we ni sago ma ke we na ke gi no ma wa bang ma job me going ma. So just a few words in English. I don't necessarily close a session. What we say in our language is Vegas be se magak we get to that we keep working and that the language keeps walking and helping us. And I was really excited to hear language throughout the day and through the sessions. I went to one session where there were YouTube's videos, and Barbara Nolan, ho wa, ho wa, ho wa. I remember that phrase. That's something that we say as well in our language, that when we like something, we say ho wa. And so I bid everybody a good evening, and then we'll see you tomorrow. Aho, miigwech.
Wajamasui, Tea Quachinis and Caswan, Moose Factory, Nestek, Szechuan Duchin. Hi everybody, my name is Tea Quachigan. I'm from Moose Factory, but my families are also from Szechuan and Fort Albany. I grew up here in Thunder Bay, actually just moved back last month. I was away for a long time. I decided to do my undergrad studies at Western University in Lakehead, and I'm now at Lakehead. But I was invited here to be a youth speaker to close the day, and I'm also just attending because I sit on the Ontario First Nations Young People's Council. And it's tough to be at the end of the day because I know everybody wants to go home, but when I always come to things like these, I'm always so inspired and motivated, hearing, listening, and seeing what everybody's doing. I kind of just been reflecting on my own education journey while being here, and I just felt kind of compelled to just share a bit because I think it's important. The work that everybody's doing, I'm not too sure if there's a lot of student voices that will be here, so I consider myself relatively privileged. I grew up with two parents who had university. My dad has his master's, so that's even that's not super common for a lot of First Nations youth, and they had good jobs here in Thunder Bay. And they moved us here to Thunder Bay. I left Moose Factory when I was really young, and that was so that I could have my education here. So I attended public school, and it was honestly really difficult for me. And I think, honestly, the only part of why I graduated high school was because of people who helped me. And I think a lot of people in these rooms are helpers. I had teachers who would let me come in and write my exams or my tests. They were called tests at the time. To write my tests and quizzes during lunches or my spares. I had people that were just looking out for me, and I don't fully even know how that came to be, but I think a lot of First Nations youth need people to look after them. And I also remember, even by then, by grade 12, I was ready to give up on graduating. I was over it. But then I got a phone call from my Jaban. I wasn't expecting to get emotional. But I've been crying a lot lately. I've been taught that fall is like a time of release, and that if you don't let that release during fall, you might be sitting with it during winter, because winter is our time to just sit and rest. So I'm gonna let myself cry. Okay. I just miss her a lot. But I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm so emotional, but this story's really special to me because she called me and she called me and she asked what size moccasins I was. and I asked her why she was asking. And she told me it's because she was making me moccasins because she had booked her flights to come from Moose Factory to Thunder Bay for my high school graduation. And she was 89 years old at the time. So I credit her for why I was able to finish high school. And my teachers who let me hand in all that work that I had missed because I had given up on graduating. And ended up being able to keep my offer that I had from Western University. And I went on to Western University. And it wasn't easy. And when I lost my job and I was in my 5th year by then, I decided I needed extra time. And my school, I remember, wouldn't accommodate me when I lost my job. And I had to leave right after her funeral. We had to end the funeral early so that some of us could leave. And I had to leave and do the 2-day travel from Moose Factory to my school. So even though I love Western, I'm like a huge advocate for Western and the Indigenous Student Services team there and the supports they have. It's honestly really difficult being an Indigenous student and trying to navigate these systems, and especially being a grieving Indigenous student. And I find that's where a lot of our supports really lack. I was told if I wanted to take a break from school, I had asked my First Nation to take a break, and they told me I would lose my funding and I would have to reapply, and I didn't have faith that I would be selected for funding as a now mature student. And what ended up happening was I failed. I retook those courses. I kept going even after I eventually did lose my First Nation funding. I had to figure out how to do my last 1.5 years myself, but I just graduated this year. And I just started my master's program this fall in environmental studies. I really appreciate everybody listening to me, and I didn't expect to get emotional, but it's honestly really difficult being a First Nation student, having to navigate living so far away from your community at times if you choose to go to a school that's far away, having to try and navigate post-secondary funding when a lot of times it isn't enough or it's not accommodating, and our First Nations aren't offering supports and how to find alternate funding for school. So I think just thanking everybody for being here and that the work they're doing, I think it's good work, and even though my education journey has, I say, taken maybe some years off my life, I wouldn't change it. My education has always been taught to me how important it is, especially from my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents. So I think it's important that we're teaching that to our young people still, because we got to bring that home to our youth, but also we have to develop our own programs so that maybe our students won't be struggling so much in these other Western institutions. That's all I have to say. Gotch.
I'm good for those closing remarks. Reflection for day one. It's really great to have that representation, to have those words, space for young people to share their closing remarks, as well as to our knowledge keepers to provide reflections. I think that's really important, and I like to continue to see that space made in our forums here. So, all right. So to close it up, we're going to ask the drum to sing us a song, and then we will be off for the day. Nagaman. Alexa. Gemino Tagasm. You guys are sounding good. All right. Oh, door prize. There we go. Hacha, hacha. Okay, so we got a door prize to give away. I know everybody's waiting around. Hey, didn't do the door prize. What's going on? Hey, just kidding. Hey, talking to you. Hey, I thought you said door prize. You like that guy. Hey, just kidding. So we have a wheel of names. So if you didn't register, you're not going to be in the draw for today. So if you want to be in the draw for tomorrow, make sure you register, because that's how we got all the names. We did a wheel of names here. So Abdek, Mampi, Yek, you have to be here in order to win. If you're not here, you do not win. All right? So we're going to spin the wheel and find out who the winner is. So whenever you are ready, give it a spin, find out who it is. Everybody's like, weep kanage, I want to win. Weep kanage, huh? Look at that, we got a winner. Colleen Morias, Sacha, come on down. Hey. All right. Bejik Magenish. Two. Aha, you got one. You get to choose one or the other. Also a reminder, you know those cute little totes that they gave us, Chiefs of Ontario? You can probably fill that up with all those drinks in the corner over there. Take those back with you. I mean, it's on the house. Hey, just kidding. I know I did. You can fit about 8 of them in there. Just kidding. About that. Yaba Gooding. All right, one more time. We got one more winner. We got, looks like a gift card. $50. $150. All right. Hacha. Marnie Yorchak. Apisha Yayin. Keep Kanage. You are the winner. Congratulations, everybody. So hope everybody enjoys their evening. Regrets to all the presenters, the singers, the piper coming out here. Stay safe, everybody. Hope you enjoy your evening, and we'll see you back here for 8 a.m. hot breakfast provided, 9 a.m. opening, and a 9:30 start. Dash, Om Gom Zin. Have a good evening. Hey.